Okay, hi, and welcome back to the Spirit Lounge. I hope you guys are doing very, very well and enjoying this journey through the Buddhist Pali. We're going to continue through the Samyutta Nikaya again today. We're almost done with this. We've got a few more videos, maybe another 4 to do, and we should be completing the Samyutta Nikaya today. We're going to be going through a couple of many of the Samyuttas today. There's a whole bunch. I won't go through them all. We'll name them all. We'll see that on the first slide. So I'll now share my screen quickly, and so we can see the presentation. Okay, so the presentation. So we're going to go through the Samyutta Nikaya, but we're going to combine all of these because they were quite a lot of repeated, needless repetition, and some of them I didn't want to keep writing. But I pulled out some of this. Some of it will repeat repetition, but I pulled out elements of all of these. So we're going to go through the Radha, Diti, Okantika, Apada, Sariputta, Naga, and the Gunda, Bakaya, and the Valahaka Samyutta. A whole bunch of them today. Okay, the Tipitaka, as you know, contains all the teachings. The Tipitaka is the book, and the Buddhist Pali is the rich scripture in which it's written. It's the canon in which those teachings are contained. 5 collections of Nikayas. We're on the 3rd of the Samyutta, and we're going to go through that, which is again sermons, discourses of the Buddha, and suttas and sections which are called vaggas. We're going to go through the vaggas. They all are structured pretty much the same way and have discourses and sermons and a collection of lectures and dialogue and homilies and so forth. Okay, the Vacchagotta Samyutta. On not knowing matter, its origin, cessation, and the method to end. As the reason, certain wrong view. As the reason, certain wrong view. And basically not understanding here what he's talking about, not understanding the nature of form and matter as being not self, an attachment to it. On not knowing feelings, remember these are the nadanas, it's going through the 12 nadanas in a kind of way here. On not knowing feelings, its origin, the cessation, and method to end it. As the reason, certain wrong views arise. On not knowing perceptions, its origin and cessation of it. As the reason, certain wrong views arise. On not knowing intentions, as the reason, certain wrong views arise. On not understanding any of the 5 aggregates, form, sensations, perceptions, mental activity, or formations of a previous life consciousness. These are the aggregates: form, sensation, perceptions, mental activity, or formations from previous life. Mental activity being tendencies that come through consciousness. On not having the capacity to recognize any of the 5 aggregates. On being unenlightened as to the 5 aggregates: form, sensations, perceptions, mind, and consciousness. On being unable to understand the 5 aggregates. On being unable to perceive the 5 aggregates. On being unable to differentiate the 5 aggregates of form, sensations, perceptions, mind, and consciousness. On not re-examining the 5 aggregates. On being unable to reveal consciousness. The world is not boundless. The body and soul are the same thing, which they are not. Buddha does and does not abide after death. So this is talking about questions. Buddha, what he's talking about is the spirit, the essence, the soul of Buddha continues after death, as it says here. The Jhana Samyutta. On meditation, on 2 elements of concentration, which is jhana. Focusing the mind upon one point and meditative achievements. This is a way of meditation, on a flame, for example. On practicing concentration with the 2 elements and being meditative firmness. Progress, preparedness, meditative object. Location, aim, meditative lasting. Suitability, meditative achievement. And meditative firmness. Progress, happiness. On meditative happiness and meditative object. Meditative location, meditative aim, full meditative effort, meditative lasting, meditative suitability. On practicing concentration in consideration of these elements in pairs, with the first element and the other of the other elements in the list, resulting in, for possible concentration outcomes for each pair, good at first, bad at second, on those good at both being the most excellent of the four possibilities. There's a lot of misdirection, confusion in this. Effectively, it's talking about meditation being something that we must persevere in, practice, refine, and have an aim and an object. Understand which meditative practice suits you is the way I would advise, and continue persevere in it and do it as often and as lengthy time as you can. This is how it will progress your spiritual movement. Meditation, silence and prayer. Focus, contemplation and mindfulness on the 5 aggregates, on the 12 nidanas, on the six senses, and so forth. Excuse me, I missed one out there. Sabhavagga. On all things being blindfolded, on the blindfoldedness of the 6 sense organs and their interaction with form, consciousness, contact, feeling, blindfolded by ill will, ignorance, greed, birth, decay, grief and suffering. On way to put an end to uncontrolled thoughts by not detecting the self or permanence of the 6 sense or sense organs and their interaction with form, consciousness, contact and feeling. Again, this is talking again about understanding the impermanence of all these things and not being blinded by them. The Yati Dhamma Vagga. On all things being related to birth, on all things being related to decay, on all things being related to disease being the non-spiritual life, on all things being related to death, rebirth, cycle, on all things being related to sorrow, on all things being related to impurity, related to the diminution, reduction, related to fading, a reduction of all of these decays, or the attachments that cause them, related to fading, related to rising, related to nibbana. So when you have the diminution, the reduction of all of these attachments and these non-permanent elements, you then have a rising, and you then also have a nibbana, which is also N-I-B-B-A-N-A rather, this enlightenment passage. On the nature of nibbana and the 6 sense organs and 6 senses and their relationship with forms, consciousness, contact and feelings. Avijjavagga. On how to eliminate ignorance by knowing and truly understanding the nature of the 6 sense organs and their relationship to form, consciousness, contact, feelings. On how the ignorance decreases as knowledge increases. On the elimination of predisposition. Okay, the Migayala Vagga. On the pleasantness found in consciousness of eye, nose, tongue, body and mind. This pleasantness leading to greed, which becomes a fetter, an attachment. When this pleasantness is renounced, there is no greed and there is no attachment, no fetter. On the nature of death, on death being wherever there is the form of the 6 sense organs, the 6 senses, the arising consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, mind consciousness. So this is basically referring us to the attachment and the identification of ourself being these things, and not releasing ourselves from their bind, the blindfoldedness that in which they incur. And in such absence, no death. On being wherever there is the form of the 6 sense organs, 6 sense. On suffering being wherever there is form of the 6 sense organs. On the world being wherever there is form of 6 senses. Gilana Vagga. On the 6 sense organs being impermanent, suffering soaked and void of self. Knowing this leads to turning away, decreases cessation and liberation from rebirth and suffering. On the nature of the world being anything that decays. On what decays anything understood via the 6 senses at the intersection of consciousness, contact and feelings. This is talking about the senses, and then they result in contact and craving and feelings, and we need to have and consciousness, which is the intersection which attaches us to those, and the releasing or the cessation of those things. On the pleasantness found in the consciousness of eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind, this pleasantness leading to greed, which becomes a fetter. When this pleasantness is renounced, there is no greed and there is no fetter. As you can see, there is almost a duplication of the Migayala Vagga here. There's very lots of repetition. On taking up residence in a hostile community, a non-monk community, on controlling anger and responding to anger and violence with loving kindness, on considering restlessness as a disease, on the six sense organs, the six senses, form, consciousness and feelings, and self as unreliable guides to things as they really are. Okay, the Antavagga. On the four extremes: extreme view of self, extreme view of the self, origin of self, extreme view of cessation of self, on extreme view of the path leading to the cessation of self. Remember, we've read this before elsewhere, very similar. There's lots of repetition in this Buddhist Pali. On the five masses of form, perception, sensation, clinging and craving and consciousness. On craving as the origin of suffering. On the self, the origin of the view of self, the cessation of the view of self. On the self being the five aggregates. On five holding masses, form, perception, sensation, clinging, craving and consciousness. On true knowledge of understanding the five aggregates as they truly are. On the holder of true knowledge, which is the Buddha. On monks with and without an understanding of satisfaction, peril and liberation are from the five holding masses, with perception, form, sensation, clinging and craving, and then consciousness. The Dhamma Kathika Vagga. Ignorance of the origin, cessation of each of the five aggregates, knowledge of the origin, cessation of each of the five aggregates. What constitutes a teacher who has turned away from the five aggregates, or not considering any of the five aggregates as mine, or I am this matter, or this matter is me. On the things a wise monk should meditate upon, the five clinging masses, meditation leads to becoming a stream winner, becoming fully enlightened, and to living in the present and mindfulness. On consciousness and the six senses, which are the sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and the mind with consciousness, the five aggregates for what they are and non-self, understanding what they are effectively, and not binding yourself to any of these things. Okay, the Sahavagga. On seeing form, sight, smells, taste, by recognizing any of the six senses, taking pleasure in the senses, thus strengthening the bounds of the senses. Excuse me. On negligence. When the consciousness of any of the six senses is uncontrolled, the mind is defiled. The defiled mind is suffering. The defiled mind does not have the meditative power to focus the mind upon one point. The Buddha's teachings do not dwell in any unfocusable mind. On diligence, the six senses are controlled. The mind is purified. The purified mind experiences purity and joy. The purified mind has the power to focus the mind upon one point. The Buddha's teachings dwell in the purified mind. On eliminating ideas of self and possession. On truly knowing each sense organ and its related sphere of consciousness, contact and feelings. Yoga Kanemi Vagga. On breaking free of bonds. On recognizing the attachment strengthening pleasantness. On the increase of the world being caused by the six sense organs. Sense consciousness, contact, feelings, cravings, clingings, birth, death, suffering are all dependent origins. On the decrease of the world being caused by the control, fading the sensation of cravings, the cessation of clinging, the cessation of being, the cessation of birth, the cessation of decay, death and suffering. On feelings of superiority, quality and inferiority arising from clinging to worldly things and desires and things of ego and mind and so on and so forth. Okay, the Loka Kamaguna Vagga. On under control of death, being aware of saying one is under the control of the six senses, sense consciousness, contact feelings, clinging. On trapped by death, being aware is trapped by the six sense organs, sense consciousness, contact, feelings, craving, and clinging. On the difference between achieving and achieving enlightenment, achieving in the worldly realm and achieving enlightenment. On not achieving enlightenment, owing to the six sense organs, sense consciousness, contact, feelings, craving, and clinging. The Hagahapati Vagga on how to live the holy life versus the worldly life, on eliminating lustful thoughts, contemplating of the body's 32 impurities, head, hair, finger and toenails, tips, skin, flesh, tendons and muscles. It goes through them all the organs. On the way to attain purity through meditation, purification of the mind. On the six senses as hells, all sense leading to unpleasantness. Navapurana Vagga, on karma, on past, present, future understanding of sense organs. On the normal eightfold path as the way to bring sensation to effects. Past, present and future karma. On sense organs, on turning away, fading and release from the six sense consciousness. Nandikaya Vagga, on right view, the impermanence of six sense organs leading to right thought, speech and action, the destruction of craving, the impermanence of the six sense organs. On the importance of seclusion and to cultivate the right view. We don't need seclusion, we just need time, space to be alone and to be mindful, to contemplate and meditate and pray. Enough time to do it within our modern life. On seclusion leading to a clear observation of the impermanence. On eliminating attachment to all things void of self. The true I, this is talking about, when it talks about self, it's talking about the soul integrating into the spirit. Six sense organs, six senses, sense consciousness, sense contact and feelings. Okay, Sutta Pitaka Vagga, on eliminating attachments, eliminating greed, eliminating clinging and greed for impermanent, eliminating attachments and greed. On the future impermanence of the six sense organs, the present impermanence of the six sense organs. Knowing this, one turns from the sense organs, gains control, and finds liberation, thus destroying the cycle of rebirth and reaching the end of the holy path that leads to the sensation. On the void of inherent in the six sense organs, one turns away from six senses, gains control, finds liberation, thus destroying the cycle of rebirth and reaching the end of the holy path that leads to the cessation of suffering. Again, I think we've all gone through the interpretations of all this. This is saying the same thing over but in different ways, but the passage is the same. Release oneself from that which is impermanent in its many, many guises and forms, and destroying the cycle of rebirth, being patient and finding liberation in silence and cultivation, mindfulness, concentration, meditation, prayer, contemplation, as needed in persistence, being faith. Okay, the Samudha Vagga, on the danger that threatens those who fail to extinguish the ill will, ignorance and greed that arises from the perceptions of the senses and sense organs, sense consciousness. On the body being void of self, the sense consciousness being void of self, on the existence of the sense organs and the sense contact leading to good or bad feelings, on the existence of sense organs and sense organs, of the sense organs and sense contacts leading to good and bad feelings, on the non-existence of sense organs and non-sense contact not leading to good or bad feelings. In other words, the opposite is true. Asifisa Vagga, on the three good yokes, control over the six senses, control over food consumption, and controlling the mind. So he's talking about the senses, consumption, and mind being the yokes and actions. On controlling the six senses in order to prevent the realization of suffering and greed. On controlling food consumption, eating to support the body rather than for pleasure. On controlling the mind, which is mindfulness and action. By day, meditating and purifying the mind. By night, meditating and purifying the mind in the first third of the sleep of the night. Sleeping in the second third of the night and meditating and purifying in the third portion of the night. So in other words, it's talking about meditating throughout the day when one is just not asleep. On the rise of desire, taking pleasure at the sight of being of something which is a form. This taking pleasure is a sign of a person being susceptible to evil, or rather distracted away from the spiritual journey. Being mindful does not taking pleasure in it. On controlling the mind with mindfulness, perceiving a pleasant object via the sense and sense consciousness, recognizing but not indulging. Okay, there was a lot in that, but saying the same things we've already gone through. I would suggest transformation, being you, the coming is you, the passage towards grace will always be yourself. Okay, I want to say thank you for listening to that. This was, we're coming through it. It's taking a lot of energy to go through this and interpret it as well. But I'm hoping you're enjoying it. I'm going to try to finish them all today. In fact, I will finish them all today, the Samyutta Nikaya, and concentrate on creating the slides for the fourth one. But again, thank you for listening. God bless to you all. Take care until next time, and I do appreciate everyone who has joined the channel and takes time to hopefully have their spiritual path benefited from what we're doing. Thank you so much, and God bless to you all.